Have you ever wondered what it takes to organize a massive car meet like this one? Well, then this video is for you. Today, we're going to talk to Steven, who has organized the largest, most consistently attended car meet in all of Dallas. We're going to talk to him about his journey, some of the challenges he faced, and we're going to get you some tips for when you want to organize your own car meet. Let's get into it. Steven, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be on here. Awesome. It's an honor.
So we got a lot of questions for you. So let's dive into it.
Let's do it.
How did you get started with this meet?
So I started this event as Cars and Coffee Southlake back in 2019. I was 15 years old at the time, and I was a high school student.
Yeah.
And I was always obsessed with cars.
Yeah.
I was going to events like Cars and Coffee Dallas and Plano, and a couple of other pop-ups here and there.
Cars in Cantina, too.
Yeah, stuff like that. Back when Park Up Front was in its infancy.
Yeah.
And Cars and Coffee Dallas announced that they were going to shut down.
Yeah.
And everybody was really upset. So at the time, I was really, business-minded, and I was always wanting to, own a supercar. My dream car at the time was an F430.
Nice.
And I was always thinking of the next step. What could I do to get closer to that goal?
Yeah.
And it just occurred that I could take Cars and Coffee and do it better.
Yeah.
Do it in a way that helps charity, do it in a way that's consistent, and just overall better for the community.
Okay, that's awesome. So what were some of the initial challenges when you first got started?
The initial challenges were bountiful.
Okay.
I was a young kid at the time, so I was really ignorant towards a lot.
You still are. Let's be honest.
Pretty much, but back in the day, I really had no clue.
Okay.
I had only been to a few car meets.
Yeah.
And from what I had known, they were chaos back in the day. I mean, Cars and Coffee Dallas, let's be honest, that was a complete mess.
Yeah,
people waiting outside.
We've been to a few, so yeah.
Yeah, waiting outside since 3 a.m. for the gates to open and stuff like that. So my goal was just to make it better than that, at least. So there were safety problems at the beginning, and those are the huge issues that you're going to find if you don't pay close attention to safety. Safety should be your number one priority. You got to remember, you're dealing with high testosterone, sports cars, and a lot of them in one place. So that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yep. So let's say you had to move somewhere completely new, Wyoming or somewhere. What's a step-by-step guide on how you would get started again if you had to?
Log down your social media. You got to get those social media accounts locked down, figure out the name, lock it down. Don't worry about a trademark yet. No one's going to come after you.
Yeah.
I would definitely contact the automotive companies in the area.
Okay.
Performance shops, repair shops, wrap shops, anything in the automotive industry. Pick their brains a little bit. See what events are happening in the area already, and see if there's a void for you that you can fill. And if those companies would like to be involved in helping you set that up.
Okay.
Once you have those companies behind you, you can definitely have more of a easier conversation when it comes to having that conversation with the city to get your permitting, and with the police department to get your officers and stuff like that.
And that's a good point. We'll talk about safety in a second. I also do want to point out that you got quite a few vendors here. So how did that get started, and you're actually able to get vendors out to the meet?
So when I was promoting my first ever event, I would contact vendors such as detailing companies and stuff like that, and I would offer them a free vendor spot.
Okay.
Since there was no telling how many people would be at the event, I just said, you can come out for free, check it out. This is the one time we're doing it for free, so come and enjoy the show.
Nice. To get into the finer details of the meet, how do you pick a location and a day?
So the location completely depends on what type of event you're trying to do.
Okay.
So a larger event is more appropriate for a huge parking lot, like a church parking lot, a shopping mall, and stuff like that. But if you want to do something small and intimate, it could benefit a restaurant. Okay. So you can contact a restaurant and say, hey, I'm doing this event here. Yeah. I want to bring all these people. Is it okay if I use your parking lot? And there's a huge misconception that people think that you pay for a parking lot.
Okay. So there's no fees involved in it. You're just kind of bringing in business.
Exactly. If you're bringing business, then there's an equal trade-off there.
Okay.
So as long as you can ensure that to the restaurant or to whatever venue you're doing it at, it typically works out and is mutually beneficial.
Okay, awesome. And that's pretty good for startup costs. So you don't have to factor in location in your upfront costs.
Exactly.
So you got your location in mind, you've chosen a date, you've thrown it out there. How do you actually go about getting permits and getting everything set up?
So it's very important to be transparent with the city.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and contact the city manager, or you can go through their website and get a special use permit or a special event application. What this does is it enables the city to just know that your event's happening.
Gotcha.
It always gets approved as long as you're honest with what is on that piece of paper.
Okay.
And it typically costs only a couple $100, but
That's
it's worth it
yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
Just to have the city on your side and have your back in case anything happens.
Do they also send out cops automatically, or you have to request that?
You have to request that.
Okay.
And that does cost extra.
Okay. Then how do you deal with large crowds and, you know, safety in general? Because we're expecting some 200 cars here and probably a couple thousand people.
Yeah, so say the large crowds are, you know, a given when you have a large audience. You know, the spectator traffic is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's the show cars, getting them in and out is such an issue. The real problem is the spectator cars that are parking in neighboring lots and maybe causing a ruckus outside of the property that you're controlling.
Okay.
But as far as inside the lot, definitely hire some staff.
Okay.
I have a good relationship with a company here called Park Up Front.
Yes.
And I use Richard Crowder. He's my guy.
He's the best.
He's my event manager, and he helps manage my employees who manage the inside of the show lot and make sure everything's organized. Egress and degress is happening with ease and stuff like that. And as far as the spectator crowd control, the most you can do is have crossing guards wherever necessary.
Okay.
Create a safety barrier to keep them off the road when the cars are leaving.
Yeah.
Because everybody likes to get the video of the car.
Yeah, and sometimes things go wrong.
Exactly. Things definitely go wrong, and you just want to be prepared for the worst possible situation.
Okay. So speaking of things going wrong, what was one instance where, you know, things didn't quite go as planned?
So we had a major accident in December of 2022, including a young kid who peeled out and lost control of his car.
Was it the black Corvette?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And after that, we completely restructured the way that we ran our events. We immediately invested in safety infrastructure to keep the spectator crowd off of the road, and also more police presence to keep the reckless activity to a minimum.
Excellent. So Cars and Coffee of Southlake, you've been doing it for a few years, but let's be honest, there's a lot of competing car meets out there now. It's just 4 this morning. How do you keep things fresh, and how do you keep people coming back?
It completely depends on the type of cars that you're having come out. And what's nice about a Cars and Coffee is it's every car.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate. We have exotics all the way to JDM, muscle cars, and sports cars, a whole lot. But really the best way to go about it is to just keep the venue fresh. If you're at the same venue over and over and over again, it could be really difficult for it to stay fresh, which is why we move around a lot. We used to be at one venue, which was fine for a while. It would stagnate here and there, which is why we realized it was time to maybe vary it around month to month.
Nice. What is your biggest piece of advice to somebody who's looking to start their own car meet?
What?
I need an extra parking person up here.
My biggest piece of advice is it really doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, how long you've been in the cars, or how much you know about cars.
Yeah.
As long as you like cars, are an enthusiast, and just can appreciate them, you can do one of these events. When I was 15 years old, I had been to 2 car meets in my life. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had a vision, and I had a plan, and I executed that plan. So just dream big. You can do whatever you put your mind to. Never put limits on yourself.
Love that. And we got a lot of cars rolling in. We're going to let you go shortly. My last question for you is, what's next? How do you continue to grow this from here?
Cars and Coffee Texas was our recent pivot. We used to be Cars and Coffee Southlake. And, you know, that's the plan. We want to really start traveling across the whole state, doing events and spreading automotive culture all over Texas in the best way that we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Steven.
Yeah,
we're going to let you go. Steven from Cars and Coffee of Southlake.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And if you want to watch more content like this, we asked people what car they would delete from the face of this planet. That video is right here. Or if you like garage tours, that's more your thing, how about this one? We went and toured a facility that had over 200 cars. Thanks for watching.